Loss is an experience that touches every life, a universal language spoken through the silence of absence. It manifests in countless ways: the end of a relationship, the passing of a loved one, a missed opportunity, or even the slow fading of a dream once held close. To lose is to feel as though something vital has been stripped away, leaving behind a hollow space that no effort seems able to fill. We grieve not only for what is gone, but also for the part of ourselves that seems to vanish with it. But have you ever paused to ask, what is the true nature of loss? Is it as final as we make it out to be? Or is it possible that what we call loss is merely a shift in perspective, a rearrangement of life's puzzle pieces to make room for something greater? Perhaps what feels like an ending is, in truth, a beginning, a doorway to restoration. When I speak of restoration, I do not mean a simple return of what was. Life doesn't work that way, nor does God, or the grand intelligence that weaves the fabric of the cosmos. Restoration is not about replicating the past, but about creating a new, about bringing forth something that resonates with who you are becoming. What you lost was not taken to punish you or to diminish you. It was clear to create space for growth, transformation, and a deeper alignment with your purpose. Consider this: every cycle in nature mirrors this truth. Trees shed their leaves, rivers carve new paths, and the sun disappears each night only to rise again. In these rhythms we find the promise of restoration. What seems to be lost is not truly gone. It is simply changing form, waiting to return in a way that serves you more profoundly. This process, however, requires trust. Trust that the divine timing is perfect. Trust that the hollow spaces will be filled. Trust that God will restore what you lost, not as it was, but as it is meant to be. And in that restoration you will find not only healing, but a profound sense of wholeness, as if nothing was ever missing at all. Loss is often perceived as an abrupt severing, a moment where something precious is taken from us, leaving behind an empty void. It is natural to view it as final, a moment from which there is no return. Yet this perspective is rooted in our limited understanding of the nature of things. What if loss is not as permanent as we imagine? What if it is not the absolute end, but a necessary process of transformation, an essential step in the ever-evolving cycle of life? The world we live in is in constant flux, a dynamic interplay of creation and dissolution. Nothing remains static, not the seasons, not the rivers, not even the stars. Everything flows, and in this flow things must sometimes fall away to make room for what is to come. Leaves fall from trees in autumn, not as a sign of death, but as part of a process that allows the tree to conserve its energy, to rest, and to prepare for new growth. The leaves are not lost in vain. They become nourishment for the soil, contributing to the tree's future vitality. Similarly, in our lives, what we lose may appear to be gone forever, but its essence remains. Loss is not a termination, it is a transformation. The relationships that end, the opportunities that slip away, the dreams that seem to dissolve, they all leave behind a trace, a seed of something greater. These losses create openings, moments of potential, where something new can emerge. And the pain of losing is often the signal that growth is at hand, even if we cannot yet see the shape of what is forming. Think about how water flows in a river. When a stone is placed in its path, the water does not stop. It moves around the obstacle, finding new routes and reshaping its course. It may leave one bank behind, but it continues its journey, eventually reaching the sea. In much the same way, loss redirects us. It may close one door, but it opens another, guiding us toward paths we might not have considered. That's when it shines. This does not mean the process is without pain. The ache of loss is real and should not be dismissed. It is a testament to how deeply we connect to what we hold dear. Yet, within that ache lies the seed of transformation. What feels like emptiness is, in truth, a space being cleared for something new. Understanding that loss is not permanent begins with a shift in perspective. It requires us to step back and see the broader picture, to recognize that life operates on a larger canvas than the one we can immediately perceive. In the moment, loss feels definitive because we focus on what has been taken. But as time unfolds, we begin to see how loss becomes a part of the process that shapes us, molds us, and ultimately moves us closer to the wholeness we seek. Restoration is often misunderstood. When we think of being restored, we imagine getting back exactly what we lost. The same relationship, the same opportunity, the same dream. We long for a return to how things were, believing that only the familiar can make us whole again. Yet, life does not work in this way, nor does the process of restoration. To be restored is not to be given back a replica of what was lost, but to receive something that aligns with who we are now, something that reflects the growth, change, and evolution we have undergone. Consider how nature renews itself. When a forest is ravaged by fire, it does not return to the exact state it was in before the flames. The ground, once covered by towering trees, becomes a fertile bed for new life. Seeds dormant in the soil awaken, bringing forth plants and trees that may not have been there before. The forest is not the same, but it is no less beautiful, no less abundant. It has transformed into something new, something suited to its present conditions. Restoration, then, is not about replicating the past, but about embracing the possibilities of the future. In much the same way, when we face loss in our lives, what is restored to us rarely looks identical to what was taken. Instead, it emerges in a form that resonates with the person we have become through the experience of loss. A door that closes may lead to another opening, one we could not have imagined before. A dream that dissolves may give rise to a vision that is richer, deeper, and more aligned with our true selves. Restoration is not a simple replacement, it is a transformation, a reimagining of what is possible. This process requires us to let go of our attachment to the way things were. We often cling to the past, yearning for its return because it feels safe and familiar, but clinging to what is gone keeps us stuck, unable to receive what is waiting to unfold. Restoration is an act of trust, a surrender to the flow of life, and an openness to the new shapes it may take. What is given in return may not look like what we expect, but it will carry the same essence, the same spirit. It will meet us where we are, not where we were. Life moves in cycles of destruction and creation, loss and renewal. Each ending is a precursor to a beginning. Each emptiness a space for something new to emerge. When we embrace this truth, we can see that restoration is not a step backward, but a step forward. It is a reimagining of what is possible, a gift that reflects not only what we have lost, but also the person we have become through the journey. The beauty of restoration lies in its ability to surprise us, to bring forth not a replica of the past, but a future that resonates more deeply with who we are. The act of letting go is one of the hardest things we are asked to do in life. We cling to what we love, to what feels familiar, to the pieces of our lives that we believe define us. When loss comes, we resist it, holding tightly to memories, people, or circumstances, hoping that our grip alone will somehow preserve what is slipping away. But in this clinging, we often fail to see the truth. To make space for what is to come, we must release what no longer serves us. The act of release is not a rejection of what was, but an acknowledgement that it has fulfilled its purpose and that it is time for something new to take its place. Imagine holding onto a rope with all your strength, even as it begins to fray. The longer you grip it, the more your hands ache, the more painful it becomes to hold on. At some point, you must decide to let go, not because the rope has no value, but because it is no longer capable of carrying you forward. In that release, there is freedom, a chance to reach for something stronger, something that can support the next chapter of your journey. Letting go is not an act of weakness. It is an act of courage and trust. When we release, we create space. Space for healing, space for growth, space for the unknown to unfold. Holding on too tightly can block this process, leaving us trapped in a cycle of longing for what can no longer be. It is only in the act of letting go that we open ourselves to the possibility of restoration. This is not an easy process. for it requires faith in what cannot yet be seen. It asks us to trust that the emptiness we feel will not last forever, that the universe abhors a vacuum and will fill the space we create with something new. Nature offers countless examples of this truth. When a tree sheds its leaves in autumn, it is not clinging to the greenery of summer. It lets the leaves fall, trusting that the energy conserved during winter will fuel new growth in spring. The tree does not mourn the leaves it loses. It embraces the cycle of renewal. Similarly, rivers flow freely, never clinging to the water that has already passed. They release what was and continue forward, always making room for what is to come. In our own lives, this process is no different. What we hold on to may feel irreplaceable, but in time we come to see that it is the act of holding on that prevents us from receiving what is next. The same energy used to grasp at the past can instead be used to prepare for the future. The act of letting go is not about forgetting or dismissing what was. It is about trusting the process of life, recognizing that endings are also beginnings and that release is the first step toward renewal. Trust is one of the most challenging yet essential aspects of the human experience. When we face loss, change, or uncertainty, our instinct is often to resist. We want answers, control, and guarantees that everything will turn out the way we hope. But life does not operate on our timeline or follow our neatly laid plans. Instead, it moves according to a rhythm far greater than our understanding, and restoration, like all things, unfolds in its own season. Trusting this process is not about passive waiting, but about cultivating faith in the unseen forces at work. The cycles of nature offer profound wisdom in this regard. Consider the seasons. Winter may feel endless, its cold and barrenness seemingly stretching on without end. Yet, beneath the frozen ground, life stirs. Roots grow deeper, seeds prepare to sprout, and the earth quietly readies itself for the explosion of spring. There is no rushing this process. No amount of impatience or effort can force the flowers to bloom before their time. And yet we trust that spring will come, that the earth knows its rhythm, and that what appears dormant is, in fact, alive and active in ways we cannot see. This same principle applies to our own lives. When we lose something, it is natural to feel a sense of urgency, a need to fix, replace, or understand what has happened. We want resolution, closure, and reassurance that everything will be okay. But life often requires us to sit in the uncertainty, to wait in the in-between space where nothing seems clear. It is in this space that trust becomes essential. Trust asks us to believe that even in the silence, even in the stillness, something is happening beneath the surface. The challenge of trust is that it requires us to release our need for control. We cannot dictate when or how restoration will occur. Like a farmer planting seeds, we can prepare the soil, nurture the environment, and tend to our inner landscape, but we cannot make the harvest come before its time. The timing is not ours to decide, and this can feel deeply uncomfortable. Yet when we learn to trust, we begin to see that life has its own perfect order. But along with the sense of release reaches sometimes a fear and a form of anger, until that fear is what comes to us, and when it arrives is not random, but carefully aligned with our growth, our journey, and our readiness to receive. This trust is not blind faith, but a quiet confidence in the wisdom of the universe. It is an acknowledgement that just as the sun rises each day, just as the tides ebb and flow, so too does life move in rhythms that we can rely upon. The process may not look the way we imagined, and it may not follow the timeline we had hoped for, but it unfolds with a precision that is undeniable. Trust allows us to let go of our striving, to rest in the assurance that what is meant for us will find its way to us, and to embrace the journey without resistance. What is lost is never truly gone. It is a comforting thought, but beyond the comfort lies a deeper truth, a profound recognition that nothing in this universe ceases to exist entirely. Energy, matter, love, connection, these things do not disappear. They change form, evolve, and continue in ways that we might not immediately recognize. Loss feels final because it removes something tangible from our grasp, something we can no longer see or touch. Yet its essence, its presence, does not vanish. It lingers, transforms, and often finds a way back into our lives in unexpected forms. Imagine a river flowing into the vastness of the sea. To the naked eye, it may seem that the river is lost, absorbed into something larger, its unique identity dissolved. But the water of the river does not cease to exist. It becomes part of the ocean, rises into the sky as vapor, forms clouds, and eventually returns to the earth as rain. The river's journey is cyclical, not linear. What appears to be an ending is simply a transition, a shift in how its essence is expressed. In much the same way, what we lose in our lives follows a similar pattern. This is especially true of love and connection. When a relationship ends, it is easy to feel as though the bond has been severed, that the love shared has been erased. But love does not operate on such finite terms. The feelings, lessons, and memories remain imprinted on our hearts. They shape who we are, guiding us in ways that are often subtle but deeply impactful. The love we give and receive continues to exist, even if the form of the relationship changes. It becomes part of the fabric of our being, influencing how we move forward and how we connect with others. The same principle applies to dreams and opportunities. When a cherished aspiration seems to slip away, it can feel as though a part of us has been lost. Yet the energy and passion poured into that dream do not disappear. They are redirected, repurposed, and often return to us in surprising ways. A closed door may lead us to a path we never considered, one that ultimately aligns more deeply with our true purpose. But the essence of the dream, the drive, the vision, the creativity, remains, waiting for its next expression. Nature is a constant reminder of this truth. A seed that falls to the ground does not disappear. It germinates, grows, and eventually becomes a tree. The cycle of life ensures that nothing is wasted, nothing is truly lost. Even in decay, there is the promise of renewal. The leaves that fall from the tree enrich the soil, nourishing new life. This interconnectedness is a reflection of the larger truth that all things are part of a continuum, constantly evolving and finding new forms of expression. To recognize that what is lost changes form is to shift our perspective. It allows us to see that loss is not an end, but a transformation. It invites us to trust the unseen, to acknowledge the ways in which the essence of what we cherish continues to live on, shaping and enriching our journey in ways we may not always comprehend. Restoration begins within. Often, when we think of loss, our focus turns outward, toward the circumstances, the people, or the opportunities that have left our lives. We long for the external to be made whole again, for what was taken to be returned. Yet true restoration does not begin outside of us. It begins in the quiet, often overlooked spaces of our inner world. It is within ourselves that the seeds of renewal are planted, nurtured, and allowed to grow. Without tending to our inner self, even the most profound external blessings may feel empty or incomplete. When we experience loss, it can shake the foundation of who we are. It challenges our sense of stability, our sense of identity, and our understanding of the world. In this state, it is tempting to search for quick solutions, to grasp at anything that promises to fill the void. But this approach often overlooks the deeper work that must take place. Restoration requires us to turn inward, to face the emotions, thoughts, and beliefs that arise in the wake of loss. It asks us to be present with our pain, to acknowledge it rather than suppress it, and to allow it to guide us toward healing. This inner work is not about fixing ourselves or erasing the pain. It is about cultivating a relationship with ourselves that is rooted in compassion, acceptance, and honesty. Loss can bring up feelings of inadequacy, failure, or unworthiness. It can make us question our value or whether we deserve restoration at all. But the truth is that restoration is not something we earn. It is a natural process that unfolds when we create the conditions for it to occur. Those conditions begin with self-care, self-reflection, and a willingness to be gentle with ourselves as we navigate the journey. Tending to our inner self means paying attention to what we need on a soul level. It might mean taking time to rest, to reflect, or to reconnect with what brings us joy. It might mean seeking out support from others or finding solace in solitude. It might mean exploring practices that help us feel grounded and whole, whether through meditation, prayer, creativity, or spending time in nature. Whatever form it takes, this inner tending is not a luxury. It is a necessity. It is the fertile soil in which restoration can take root and flourish. When we nurture our inner world, something remarkable happens. We begin to see the external world differently. Opportunities for renewal that we might have overlooked become visible. We find ourselves more open to receiving what life has to offer. The process of restoration becomes less about what is happening around us and more about the transformation that is occurring within us. This inner shift allows us to approach life with a sense of resilience, hope, and trust, even in the face of uncertainty. It reminds us that the true source of restoration is not something we must find or chase. It is something we cultivate within ourselves. In the intricate dance of life, loss and restoration are inseparable partners, each shaping and defining the other. What we lose, though it may leave an ache in its absence, creates space for growth, transformation, and renewal. It teaches us to let go, to trust, and to embrace the unseen rhythms of the universe that guide us toward what is meant for us. The restoration is not about returning to what was, but about moving forward with what is possible. It is a process that begins within, in the quiet spaces of our soul, where healing takes root and hope is rekindled. It asks us to trust the flow of life, to recognize that even in our emptiest moments, there is an unseen current working to restore us in ways we cannot yet imagine. The essence of what is lost is never truly gone. It evolves, shifts, and finds its way back into our lives, often in forms that are richer and more aligned with who we are becoming. Loss and renewal are not opposites, but part of the same continuum, reminding us that every ending carries the seed of a new beginning. So, as we navigate the inevitable ebbs and flows of existence, let us hold on to this truth. Life has an extraordinary way of restoring what we thought was gone. It may not return in the form we expect, but it will return in the way we need. Trust the process. Nurture your inner self and remain open to the unexpected gifts that arise from the depths of loss. This is the Anebanosa. Extrapolated learning exposes us to lifelong learning, and it totally changes the nature of thinking. As we noted earlier, in the end, restoration is not just a promise. It is a certainty woven into the fabric of existence. It is life's way of reminding us that what feels broken can be made whole again, and what seems lost can always be found in